Transfer Portal CFB presented by NoContextCFB. It's not draft day. I wish it was. But we are talking a lot about the draft. So I guess technically it's draft day. Terrible intro there. So please make sure to like and subscribe. Please help me out. Help us out. Have two new people on with us today. See? Hey, hello, hi. Brendan,
Hey.
George. I'll let y'all introduce yourself. And then we can get into draft talk. Super smooth intro.
Absolutely, Liam. Happy to be celebrating a spiritual draft day with you two gentlemen. I think we can live every day like we're expecting the big news to break. So happy to be here, fellas.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, happy to be talking some draft. I feel like we're trying to fill in the gaps. In the weeks between football, and those gaps are going to get a pretty significantly larger after the game this weekend. So happy to start rolling the hype train up for April.
Yeah, so I'm just super excited to dive into this 7-round mock draft where we'll each just alternate picks and we'll just get going.
Oh yeah.
All right. I guess that ain't the plan. We'll start off with since y'all are new, our listeners, viewers, whatever, might not be as familiar with your evaluation processes and kind of how you pick out these prospects and fall in love with them or throw them aside because you absolutely hate their game, their skill set. How do each of you what are your philosophies for evaluating these NFL draft prospects?
So I'll jump in. I don't know if I have specifically a philosophy. I think a lot of my, introduction to these players just comes from watching a lot of college football and going to games and seeing some of them live. So that's kind of where everything tends to start. And then I like to either go position by position or see how they play against other teams and see how they compete against other people at their level, because it's easy for someone to look good if everything's clicking and you're playing a bunch of cupcake games and stuff, but how you perform on a big stage, how you perform against someone else who's going to get drafted at a high level, that kind of starts to tell me a lot and fill in some of the gaps of, do I think they would be able to translate their game to the NFL level?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, starting here at the Transfer Portal CFB, I mean, it's a community for people who really love and are passionate about college football. So I think me, like a lot, like George, like a lot of other people, sort of the process can start sometimes just at the level of just oh, he's nice, that you kind of come across as you're watching the season and you have those players that you look forward to every Saturday. But then I think when it sort of gets deeper into actually projecting, what talent is going to look like at the next level, I think, it has to initially be grounded in sort of what NFL teams are looking for, what the trends of the leagues are pointing to, what skill sets are going to be potentially more valuable in 3 years, which is hard. And a lot of it is cyclical. And so, I mean, I think a lot of times the best prospects you see are folks that are going to be, all that stuff is irrelevant. And so I think also, I come from a background of being surrounded by a lot of offensive line coaches in my immediate family. And so I definitely am most passionate about writing about offensive and defensive linemen. You're probably not going to see me posting too much about corners, love what they do. Obviously probably outside of quarterback, the most difficult position on the field, but, I really wear my heart's on the line, as I like to say. I have spent a lot of time sort of working on my film analysis. I've figured out all the little back alley ways to get some college all 22. I'm fortunate enough to live in New Orleans where, not a lot of people know this, but if you go to Bourbon Street and you see a puddle You can just reach your hand in there and you'll be able to pull out some SD cards with various G5 and big college football matchup all 22 films. So
Is that what the
yeah,
people try and solicit you on Bourbon Street? I always thought they were
yeah,
asking me if I wanted
yeah,
something else.
something else, something else. No, it's all Iowa special teams actually. Not a lot of people know that, but yeah.
I really liked how you kind of phrased the beginning of like evaluating a player essentially, like, kind of like that, but just going like, ooh, that boy nice. Ooh, he's got
Mhm.
that dog in him.
Yeah.
That is kind of how
Well,
it starts. I just haven't even like thought of that or realized
to
it, but that just clicked.
Yeah.
to be honest, it's also, ooh, that guy kicked the, pants out of my team. Like Caleb
Sure.
Williams coming in at halftime and then destroying Texas. Like I'm gonna keep looking out for him, and I really hope we don't play him ever again. Like that's like stuff like that just kicks it off, and
Yeah.
everyone has their biases for the leagues they root for, and you see who runs the table there.
Mhm.
Hmm. There's other
Yeah.
fun ways too, like just playing college fantasy football and scouring the waiver wire and seeing who's balling out or whatever, trying to figure out who you need to start next week if you got a key player out. I think that's also a very interesting way to start learning about players well before they break out on the national scene. More people need to play college fantasy football. Hashtag ad.
Sure.
Now, how about what position groups do you guys believe that we'll start with the most comfort evaluating? What do you believe you're
Mhm.
best at?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brendan.
Sure. Yeah. As I mentioned a little bit, I'm very passionate about kind of creating sort of what I hope is fairly insightful and educational content about offensive line play, at the college level and at the NFL level. So I definitely want to have a focus on offensive and defensive linemen, especially, with the draft. I think a lot of teams expect to, this is true of all positions, but I think it's especially true of the offensive line, is they expect to draft starters on day 2 and 3 in a lot of
Yeah,
cases. So I think that something I hope to bring to the transfer portal sort of in my time here is definitely some detailed and thoughtful insight on sort of those guys that are going to hear their names called in the maybe the third round, maybe the fourth round, but be in an opportunity early on in their career to get on the field and sort of make a name for themselves.
Yeah, and I would say just, I know it's the easy pick, but I feel super comfortable evaluating quarterbacks. I played quarterback in high school, and I love just kind of breaking down, how a quarterback trends and their progression throughout their college career and stuff like that. So that's something I'm comfortable with. And over the past, I'd say 2 years, I've become more comfortable with evaluating and looking a lot into linebacker play. Shameless plug here, but I root one of my teams I root for is Ohio State, and the reason I root for them, my cousin plays the Mike linebacker, the middle linebacker position, Captain Tommy Eichenberg. So over the past like 2 years, watching him play and develop, naturally I'm looking around the league and other Power Five schools and seeing how his play stacks up with other linebackers, who's going to win the Buckus Award, why are they favored, and then how does that translate into the draft? Because a lot of that isn't necessarily a one for one. If you lead in tackles or something like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a first round person. What
mhm,
are some of the skill sets and other things that evaluators are looking for?
definitely. For me, I'll just keep it quick, simple, since people know me. Safety. I really like evaluating safety, and then group of five, FCS, running backs. I think there's a lot of value to be found there, especially as we finally reach this point in our lives where the NFL sees the value of day three running backs and they see, hey, we don't got to draft a running back in the top 10. Those days should be over. I like finding the hidden gems at running back, have a lot of fun with that. How about as we look to the 2023 NFL draft, I think it's super talented for a variety of reasons, but I think the depth really stands out at a multitude of spots. I'm curious to hear from you guys and what you believe, some of the strongest positions to be as to some of the weakest position groups.
Yeah, I think, and I know you've written a little bit about this, Ray Liam, so I'll kind of throw you a layup here. But I think wide receiver is probably the deepest position that I see in the draft here. I think there's day two, maybe even day three guys that, are going to be starters on an NFL roster. That to me is incredibly encouraging. And I think some other positions, I think defensive backs, so corners and safeties. I know it's a little more your specialty, but I think there's a lot of depth there. And there's probably, I'd say, 10 linebackers who I have my eye on of guys that can make a difference at the next level. So those I think are some of the stronger positions. And then I'm sure there's some other depth to be found in further evaluation with some other positions. But I'll kick it to Brendan to see his thoughts too.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, I think it's clear that every NFL team needs corners. There's not a team in the league that I think year over year is content on just what the depth they have in that position, just because it's so hard and you need so many of them. But I mean, obviously, I think that it's an interesting draft for a number of reasons, because I think that for a lot of position groups, I think you can throw wide receiver in here. I think you can throw tackle in here. Is that the very top tier of those position groups is maybe a little thinner than it's been in years past. But I think that once you get past that and you're looking at the things we're talking about here, the value outside of the first round potentially, at the end of the first round potentially, I think that those two positions are as you mentioned, wide receiver, and as with the tackles I've been looking at, I think that there are going to be a lot of really good players that are not on a lot of people's radars at the moment.
Yeah, so you guys kind of already touched on receiver, so I'll kind of stray away from that. I do think the corner class is pretty, there's a lot of depth there. Like Clark Phelps, we're not even talking about him as a first-round pick anymore. I think he's going to be a plug-and-play starter, truthfully. I think there's a lot of, Garrett Williams and other corners just,
Sure.
Not getting much recognition. The corner class is deep. Tight end class is unreal.
Yeah.
I'd have to say with the tight end class, I was texting Eric at home yesterday. I was kind of like, so I saw that you have 3 tight ends in the first round of your mock, as does Lance Zierlein. Why though? I just the tight end class is great and everything, but I feel like we do this every year where there's a bunch of good tight ends. And then there's multiple of them mocked in the first round, and then it fades out as we get closer to draft day. So I kind of for people that might think all these tight ends are going to go in the first round, I really only expect one to go in the first round at the end of the day. I really do. Maybe a second. I just don't see it happening. And it's in due part because this tight end class is ridiculous. There's going to be dudes that you find on day 3 that are going to impact these rookies. I mean, we're talking about Luke Musgraves hit it big and found out of I didn't think it would come this quick for him after missing basically all year with the injury, but he's being touted as potential first rounder along with Michael Mayer and Darnell Washington. Of course, Dalton Kincaid is getting that first round love. But how about Sam Laporta? That guy I've always thought is going to be an impact tight end at the next level, and you're going to be able to get him on day 2, maybe slips of round 4. It'd be crazy. I don't know. Payne Durham balled out the Senior Bowl. Tucker Kraft is going to have a good combine. I don't know. There's just so many names. Luke Schoonmaker from Michigan. He was getting a lot of love at the Shrine Bowl as a guy that has a lot of NFL teams are in love with. This is a guy that's receiving. He's not going to go round 1, but he was receiving round 1 grades, kind of. He'll probably go round 2 or 3. Marshawn Ford, Leonard Taylor, Noah Gindorf. There's a million names at tight end, and Joel Wilson. And I could do the same at running back, but I'm not going to talk for 50 more minutes about that position. But running back is also extreme.
So Liam, let me ask you a question. If you think 2-3 tight ends is unrealistic, and then mocks are going to start to slip those out, what positions do you think are going to start to fill those gaps? I think offensive linemen there's only one or two projected in the first round. I think they're going to start to beef that up. But what do you think?
I mean, I would tend to agree with that because I mean, you have what? You have Skaronski and Paris Johnson as kind of the first round locks right now. Then Broderick Jones is getting a lot of love.
Yeah.
I think Cody Mauch he's going to be 24 as a rookie, though, but I still think he's someone that's going to be able to fit in at the end of the first round because what he just did at the Senior Bowl, he showcased, I don't just play left tackle. I don't just, play red zone right tackle. Like, I can play left guard for you. I can play right guard. I can play center. That's what teams want in an offensive line rookie. They want someone that can play all five spots. So I think Mauch's going to be someone that rises up. DeJuan Jones, I still think should be a first rounder. Like, again, he's 6'8", 360. He's an absolute beast. He balled out at the Senior Bowl for a day and then said, my job here is done. Darnell Wright maybe moves up. Jalen Duncan's still a fun guy. I don't know. I'd agree with you right now, but maybe 3 days away from the draft, I'd switch it up and be like, I don't know. I just feel like any position I just think it's going to be accumulation of talent that goes. But my big reason why tight ends aren't going to go 3 of them in the first round is because, again, the class is so deep, but we see tight ends with development due to their traits on days 2 and 3 all the time. They're popping off in the NFL. You don't need to take a guy in the first round. And I just think the positional value isn't there. And then you look at some of these other positions and their values aren't it's, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that GMs are going to change their mind 8 more times before the draft too. So don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything you said about the tight end class, I think I definitely agree with. I mean, the only thing I would add that I think makes this class a bit special is I think that there is a strong diversity of skill sets. Even just within the top. I mean, you sort of between Mar and Darnell Washington. You got two cats that I think are maybe fit more that inline tight end mold. Those are two really huge dudes, that are going to be expected to contribute as a blocker and as a receiver. But there's so many roles that a tight end body type can fill for an NFL team right now. I think with the prevalence of an H-back, and of course having positional versatility, I mean, that's something that we saw with the 49ers throughout the season, the ability to challenge defenses with individuals who can play multiple positions, which I think is something that a few of the tight ends in this class offer. So I think that's another interesting wrinkle to this class this year.
Yeah, you're going to be able to, Noah Gindor, unfortunately, had issues coming back from injury at NDSU. But that, he got his combine invite, and that's someone that from day one is going to find himself on the field due to his blocking ability. There's just endless talent, as you point out to. There's just endless differentiations in talent in the tight end class. It's sick. Also, the edge class is loaded, and that's gross to think about. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, if there's any class where you're going to say, okay, what is, or any position I should say, where the top end is really, standing out, I would say the edges is probably where I would go first.
Yeah, it's so nasty top heavy, and even after losing out on Jared first, who was my guy for this whole draft, sick, cool, whatever. There's depth everywhere. Again, I understand why BJ Thompson didn't receive a combine invite. I think that's ridiculous. They need to get that fixed. That's the kid edge rusher from SFA was my biggest winner from Shrine Bowl week. And I don't know, there's a guy that wants to be known as a freak athlete. He was going to blow up the combine with his athletic skills, 6'6", 240. He was planning on running a 4.5 or 4.6 or something ridiculous. He just wins with absolute speed. He's a menace off the edge. I don't know why he didn't get a combine invite, so I'm pretty mad about that. Sorry for the rant, but show BJ Thompson some respect. I don't know. What else sticks out to you guys?
Yeah, well, I mean, I could give a little preview of my first sort of write-up that I've got coming up this week. You mentioned Darnell Wright as sort of one of the tackles that I think has the potential to be a big riser. He had a great week at the Senior Bowl, picked up one of the position group player of the week honors, which is outstanding. And I'm really surprised that he's still not even considered like a consensus date second round pick. I think, people have him a little bit below that. And, I mean, I think for one, he's got a pedigree that I think a lot of teams, it'll be very easy for them to buy into. I mean, he played against a lot of, the elite of the elite at Tennessee. He's a former 5-star recruit, 6'6", north of 330, and he moves well. I think that a great place, for folks that are interested in familiarizing themselves with his game, a great place to start is just the game against Alabama. I mean, especially throughout the whole first half. I mean, it was him and Will Anderson, right up against each other on pretty much every rep, and he kept him silent. That's the guy who a lot of folks think is going to be the number one overall pick. He was handling him as a 4-eye, as head up, and as a wide 9 coming with like a great rushing angle. He was able to mirror with him. He was able to absorb his power really well, and I think you see that all across his body of work in the SEC. So I don't want to spoil too much. I'm going to have more nuggets, sort of how I think he projects in different schemes. He is a bigger dude, and I think you see when he gets in his momentum in a straight line, on a lot of the schemes that Tennessee ran best last year was stuff like counter, where, he'd be on the front side and would sort of just be a bit of a road grader. So, I mean, I could understand why team might project him to fit better in that sort of gap scheme versus a more lateral movement based zone blocking scheme. I can go a little deeper in sort of the differences and sort of what you're looking for from a different prospect if you guys are interested in that. But yeah, I mean, he's a player I think I'm very excited about. I think there are teams. I think he would be a great value second round pick. I think he's a plug and play starter in the NFL. And, I wouldn't be surprised, post combine, post what he did at the Senior Bowl, if he sneaks into the end of the first round.
George, I'm curious we'll change topics a little here and go to the worst position groups, the weakest in your opinion. What do you think the weakest position groups are?
I think the weakest position group, number one, is probably quarterback, and I know that's a little bit of a hot take, and there's a lot of polarizing takes coming out about it. I think during the season there was pretty clear 1 and 2. It was Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, and then after football stops being played, all of a sudden we have another 2 quarterbacks sneaking in, potentially taking over, and jumping them in the spots, and that's Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. And I really don't see them as first rounders, Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. Again, I think evaluation stems immediately from what did you actually do on the field, who'd you play against, and what your progression looked like. And looking at the progression for Anthony Richardson, looking at the progression for Will Levis, they kind of fell off a cliff, or Will Levis fell off a cliff a little bit. Anthony Richardson just didn't really progress too much. And I think we're a little bit, starving for quarterbacks in the draft after last year was a little bit of a dry quarterback year. And then you turn around and come to this year and you have a lot of hype, with Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. And I think that people are just trying to shove, talent and physicality and size and looking at tools into the first round rather than actually evaluating what they've done on the field and what is this player actually going to bring to my franchise. Because drafting a quarterback in the first round means that's who you want to be your starter moving forward. You're not drafting them to for a value pick. You're not drafting them to potentially sit on the bench. I know that does happen, but ideally if you're drafting someone with one of the first 32 picks, that's going to be your guy moving forward, and that's who you want to put your franchise on. And I just don't see that being, a really smart play with those second 2 guys. But I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts. If you think I'm out of line, I'll rant about them a little bit more. But if not, I want to hear if you agree with me or where you guys stand.
I mean, I think in the context of, especially last year, I mean, it's leaps and bounds better than it was. I think there's there's never ever that many guys in a draft class at the quarterback position that turn out to be special. Like at most you're getting like 3, So I think the fact that there's, let's say, four guys that, people that are consistently have been mocked in the first round for the last couple months. I think there are four guys that you can talk yourself into as being guys, and being, all folks you mentioned. And I think that in and of itself is a strong, is a fairly strong quarterback class. And then I think from there, more down the list, there's a healthy enough crop of people that fit into that, archetype of sort of, almost like what, almost like this Brock Purdy thing that was so successful in the NFL that maybe was a little bit surprising for devout college football fans to sort of see that name pop up when maybe weren't expecting it. But in terms of people that you can expect to come in with a high degree of professionalism and workable traits, maybe like a Tanner McKee, of the world. I think that there's a healthy crop of that in this draft. Now, in terms of the position group that stands out to me as being sort of one of the weaker ones, is I think the off-ball linebackers. Like, I think there's dudes, that I think you look at and you say like, okay, yeah, it's gonna be a real solid NFL player. But there's no one that at this point in the process that I've really fallen in love with. There's no one that I put super highly, especially compared to years past.
I personally want to go back to the Will Levis, Anthony Richardson thing. I want to say, okay, so I understand look, I don't get the Will Levis stuff. I never have, never will. Again, there's college football fans that don't get it. There's NFL people that get it. I don't understand what they see. I'm not in on Will Levis. I'm just not. Anthony Richardson, however, I think there's all the appeal in the world to be a first round pick. Mm-hmm. He's going to go. I instantly regret not mocking him in the first round on my second mock on December 6th. I felt like a buffoon for that after like 24 hours of posting it, but I think that's a guy that's 100% going to go in the first round. I don't know where to. I mean, there's plenty of possibilities. Mm-hmm. Carolina, Tampa Bay, and the NFC South needs quarterback play desperately. Outside of probably Atlanta, if they want to stick with Ritter, and let's see what happens this season. Maybe they take quarterback 2024. Anyway, Richardson has all the appeal in the world to go in the first round because, it depends so much on getting the quarterback the opportunity to succeed. As we saw with Brock Purdy, he's nowhere close to being the most talented quarterback in his own room. Like, he's just not. He was set for absolute success with Kyle Shanahan's brilliance, great offensive line play, solid running back play, a lot of good receivers, like good play designs. Like, he didn't have to do much. He just had to throw it to the open dude. Simple as that. Make a read, make the throw, easy. You need to get these quarterbacks into positions where they could just thrive. Like, again, say Anthony Richardson going to Carolina. He's not in like a great spot to succeed early on. He's really not. But that's fine. Like, you got to build around him, right? You're going to have to, if you're Houston, you take Bryce Young, you're going to have to build around him. You're going to have to get him weapons, everything. So, I don't know. At the end of the day, I just think Anthony Richardson is 22. He's going to be a 22-year-old rookie. He is an athletic specimen with great rushing ability in addition to, a rocket for an arm, which, yes, it still needs to be fully developed. We're not close to seeing – kid is so raw. We're not close to seeing what the finished product with Anthony Richardson is. Whereas with Will Levis, I think he's close to the finished product as he is. Like, he's going to be a 24-year-old rookie. He has had NFL coaching on his Kentucky staffs, 2-3 years in a row, and nothing has happened there. There's been no growth. His footwork's still garbage. He still, doesn't process the defense in front of him and like analyze things. Will Levis stinks. I don't know. I think Anthony Richardson is worthy of getting that bet.
I'm gonna table Will Levis just because I fully agree with your points. I gotta harp on the Anthony Richardson thing. I just don't. I understand that he's a raw talent. I fully agree he's a raw talent. But when I see someone digress and have a worse year in college football from the year before, a completion percentage of 53, I think it was 53.7, that's just to me like an unacceptable,
Yeah, I
someone
get
that's
that.
taken the first round. Because if you're taking him in the first round, yeah, you got to build around them. Like that's, kind of your cornerstone. You're going to try and develop them, but you're also expecting them to actually step on the field within a year. Whereas if I think the reason he's going in the first round is because there's just legitimately nobody else who's going to go in the first round at the quarterback position. And I can't imagine that people in his camp didn't know that. And then they look to, the 2024 draft and they say, there's a potential for 5 quarterbacks who are not you to go in the first round. And that's the people that we're already projecting. And if someone has a really good year, they could jump in.
Yeah.
So I think just, I understand the move. I would have probably made the same move if I had raw talent like that. And, I saw the tea leaves and read them the same way. But to me, it's just, you're looking at someone who had all the talent in the world and just didn't perform really for 2 straight years, and didn't really show you anything other than, he can run and take the ball and just be a better athlete. And you're not really going to be a better athlete than anyone in the NFL. And the people that we've seen at least do that on the surface level absolutely blew up in college. We've seen people become just out athlete, other college
For
players,
sure.
run the ball, throw the ball deep. I just didn't see it with him. So
No, I
I'll
get
end my
that.
rant with that. But
No, I would say like I'm just right split in the middle. Like I just think he's a complete boomer
Mhm.
bust
Mhm.
prospect, and I get why he would go in the first round and get why he wouldn't. I would. I don't know. It depends on the team if I'd spend the first
Yeah.
rounder or not, but I don't know.
yeah, I
Just
think
right in
it's
the
just a
middle.
I
matter of
like him as a first rounder.
like,
I don't
would you
have
would
any
you
problem
mortgage
with
your
him in the first
future, or
rounder.
would you look at
Yeah,
next year's
sure,
draft
man.
class and say,
Sure, man. Yeah, I would take those trades. Yeah, sure. Like, I mean, I think that yeah, he's a lottery ticket. Sure, he's boomer bust. All those things that people say about him. And at the same time, I don't think he's as raw as some people characterize him. Like, he's not. The accuracy is an issue. Um, and at the same time, there is an archetype for quarterbacks that are maybe not 100% the most accurate guy in the league to compensate with other things, like the arm strength he's shown, the athleticism he's shown. I mean, those are thin margins for those players. I mean, like guys that come to mind would be obviously Josh Allen, who I think he gets compared to a lot, which is tough because, he's
Pretty
unprecedented
unfair.
player. It's unfair.
Same
It's
for Will
unfair.
Levis. It's
And
unfair.
it's unfair and it's unprecedented. But it is, but he is a player who is not the most accurate quarterback in the league by any means. Even still, even as good as he is, and he's a dominant player. Cam Newton on a throw to throw accuracy level was not the most accurate quarterback in the league by any means, but he was dominant because of his processing ability and because of his athleticism. And so I think that there is a case to be made for, even if the accuracy gets 20% better, which I think is a fair expectation for a player his age. If he's put in the right situation, that's something that I think we can see. To get to that floor, I think he can be a very good playoff caliber quarterback.
20% is a massive jump in accuracy?
I'm just saying numbers, brother. I'm
No,
just
no,
saying numbers.
I
You know
think
what I mean. 20% is.
I
Yeah,
think what
you know
I
what I
I
mean.
think what I struggle with is I do understand the Cam Newton comparison. Like, he's just, you look at him and he's physically imposing on the field, and he looks like he's the biggest player and strongest and fastest player on the field. But Cam Newton actually took a terrible Auburn team all the way, and he won the Heisman. So like that, to me, I'm like, if that translated and fizzles out maybe a little too soon,
Yeah.
I'm scared if someone didn't do that in college on a pretty talented Florida team, raw talent. I don't know. I just think I think I understand the accuracy, issue, and that, that could get better and stuff like that. I just, yeah, I think if, yeah, I think if he wasn't, you know, able to take a team like Florida at least, somewhere in the SEC, I don't really understand how he's going to be a first rounder and take an NFL franchise, to the next level. Is kind of where I'm getting at.
Another thing I'll say, just again, if you're drafting Anthony Richardson, please please design your offense to fit this guy's strengths. Don't do what Chicago did for however long it was with Justin Fields and making him do everything they shouldn't have. Oh, that stuff's so annoying.
Look what happened in one year with Kafka and Daniel Jones. They changed the offense to fit him running and making short throws. I'm a Giants fan. I don't think Daniel Jones is an incredible quarterback, but obviously they were successful because the offense was built for him. So I fully agree.
I'd like to see Richardson in with the Giants, actually.
See, that's where I want to see.
That's kind of what I want to see. Where if
you guys are putting me in a corner, man.
I'd put him there.
No, that's where I was going to mock him on December 6th. I wouldn't say Flowers instead, but I want
keep Zay Flowers or keep Addison, keep a receiver. Give us a receiver.
I want Anthony Richardson with the ball very, very bad. Like I want Brian DeBoll to have an extremely talented quarterback that he's actually able to work with and not run this kind of training wheelsy offense with it.
It's a gimmicky offense. We could
I really enjoy watching it. It is a bit Mickey Mouse, but
it's very.
I mean, I think I just like watching Saquon Barkley. Honestly, I think
there's
I think
no
that's a lot of fun.
ends on that offense. No sharp object about it.
There's no sharp objects around Daniel Jones. The guy is a walking Brooks Brothers franchise.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Let's look at.
If you like
sorry, Daniel, I like you, but
Giants offense for you.
Let's look at some guys that aren't consensus first rounders or might not be getting any love at all as a first rounder that we think, whether we think they can be a first rounder at the end of the day, or whether we just think that they're going to go into the NFL and impact very early on. Let's name some names. Who are we seeing that's going to thrive early on in the NFL? Who people need to invest in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the other guys that I've had the chance to really dive into from a film study perspective is Blake Freeland out of BYU. I mean, I think he's a guy who's probably on the radar of a lot of college football fans. He started a lot of games, in Provo. I think, was a part of some of the best offensive lines that I can really remember in college football at BYU, especially in 2020 and 2021. I think that was a really, even still now, kind of underrated stretch of dominance that they had, where they really controlled just about every game they played, including against, a lot of talented teams, especially in that 2021 season. And he's, he is I think really, really well suited for the for a outside zone offense. I think one of the blocks that he's a huge guy. He's 6'8", but I think compared to some of the other really tall tackles that you see, like a DeJuan Jones, I think that he is a bit more fluid. There's a little bit less rigidity to how he moves. And so I think you really see the combination of just him being so long and having good agility, and especially that burst out of his stance. I think one of the blocks you really see is the backside cutoff on outside zone, which, if you're not familiar, is where the tackle will have to hook his body in between the defensive tackle, which is sometimes head up over the guard. Usually it'll be a player on the outside shoulder. Otherwise, the guard will probably feed him to the tackle, which is where he sort of blocks him in to the tackle who's trying to hook the defensive player before the guard gets up to the second level. And essentially, it's what opens up the cutback lane on a zone play, which is what a big part of what makes that scheme so effective. And I think that he would fit in really well to that archetype. And he's not a player that I've heard put in the first round very often, and I don't know why, because I think he's got a lot of a combination of things in terms of his experience. His mother and father were really elite athletes at BYU too. He's grown up in and I think sort of the environment that you would project onto a elite football player. So I think he's a guy that I'm pretty high on at the moment.
Yeah, and some guys I'm pretty high on, and I haven't been able to go too far into like any film study or anything like that. But just noticing their trend of play against good competition and seeing where they ranked on the draft boards preseason, midseason, and now someone like D Winters from TCU, he's their linebacker. He had a fantastic game against Michigan. He's been playing really well against good competition, and he's climbed up significantly in the draft board. I think he's a top five, maybe a little bit lower in terms of where he ranks, but he's still, looking to be a day two pick, probably at best. And that's someone who can, I could see on an NFL roster, absolutely. So I do think the linebacker class is pretty deep. There's probably going to be 2, 3 go in the first round, but I really do think you could see value a little bit further. And then this is a little bit of a homer pick because I'm a big Texas fan, but there are two Texas defensive tackles that I think are great. Coburn and Moro Ojoma. I think both of them are fantastic. They're huge guys and just can move their weight around. A lot of the knocks on Ojomo is that maybe he's not playing every single play 100% or stuff like that. And I think that's something that just he's a young guy and he's just going to continue to build and get a little bit better. He has all the raw talent in the world. So I think people like that are in a deep class for tackle. I know Brendan was already talking about how deep this class is. Those are gems that you can find that are not going to go day one, that you can find day two, maybe even day three in the draft, and they can actually bring you some value and be a player that cycles in on your defense. So
Yeah, for me, I thought of 4 names. Sorry for thinking of, I could have thought of way more, or I have thought of way more. This is hard. One is Hunter Lipke. I still think he's truly one of the best fullback prospects that we'll ever see. He's going to do whatever he can to get on the football field early. Some team is going. If someone takes him in the third round, I ain't going to be surprised, but I'll just be safe and say some team is getting a heck of a player on day 3. I like Jalen Cropper a lot. I think this is someone that also is probably going to be like a late third or fourth round pick receiver from Fresno State. I think he's going to be able to find his way on the football field very early on. I think he is exactly what the Chargers need to draft at receiver. I would love to see Cropper there, but it's a surgical route runner with good speed, and he just knows how to get open. We saw that for years with him and Jay Kaner. Colby Sorsdahl, offensive lineman from William and Mary, got to talk to him at the Shrine Bowl in Vegas and learn about his game a lot more. And this is an aggressive and athletic guy that moves very well. He wants to improve on his pass protection, but he's, again, someone that's going to go out there and play all 5 positions on the offensive line. That's incredible value that you're going to get on day 3. Also surprised he didn't get a combine invite. And then JL Skinner from Boise State. I don't know when he's going to go in the draft. I think there is a wide range of outcomes for when he is drafted, whether he goes much higher than I think or much lower than I think. He'll find his way on the field early though, because he's a 6'4" nightmare in your secondary that will light guys up over the middle of the field time and time again. He is perfect for like early 2000s football. And he still has a place in the game right now in 2023 and beyond, and he'll find a way to get on the field a bunch. Like he's a ball player.
Great picks.
Thanks,
I mean,
man.
you're looking at deep value.
Yeah, I mean, I think the stuff with I mean, I've seen Lupke like real high, like in some mock drafts. I mean, I think the fundamental question, I mean, with him, I mean, he's such a great player, is just probably about snap counts. And I think that I think like you look at a player like how the Miami Dolphins used like Alec Ingold. I think that as sort of a fullback, a name that you're playing all over the field. I mean, he's a big part of what they did, but at the end of the day, he was in about 40% of their plays. So I think that he's Lupke has potential to play more than that for a team in a situation, but I think that's probably what a lot of the conversation will be centered around him with actual NFL teams.
Yeah, I think
in terms of where he gets drafted.
Yeah, I think with Lipke at DSU really like to conserve like his touches and just being
Sure.
out there on the field. They want to save him up for bigger games and stuff. Like they kind of use them as a secret weapon at times. I mean, again, that dude has receiver like ball skills too.
Mhm.
It's pretty scary what Hunter Lipke could do, and a team that it's going to be so annoying when he gets drafted, like seeing a fan base upset that they took a fullback. That's going to annoy me. I don't know. I don't know. Of course, that's what I thought of. Yeah, then we'll just wrap this up with looking at the Super Bowl. I mean, sure, whatever. I don't lame. Eagles and the Chiefs, though. Y'all want to kind of look at what picks have been most important for these franchises over the last few years and how they're going to help them out here in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think aside from the obvious, right? We're not gonna like go over like the Mahomes and Hurts and stuff like that. I think the first one, Miles Sanders still on a rookie contract as a running back has overperformed. I think he's been fantastic. And then obviously for the Chiefs, like everyone's gonna say Kelsey getting him in the third round, but I think really what it comes down to is the Eagles somehow over the past 10 years have had the number one overall offensive line more often than they haven't. And I think that's incredible drafting, incredible value that they find. Two of the guys that they found, I wouldn't say found, but one of them they found in Jordan Mailata. He was a rugby player from Australia in the 7th round, and he's incredible at right tackle. And then Landon Dickerson from Alabama was great at Alabama and just came on in and took over. I think he took over the right guard spot, and he's rock solid. So I think it's not a mistake that the Eagles understand how to draft the offensive line.
Yeah. No, I mean these are two teams that I think are really especially built through the draft, which I think is a testament to the how you sustain success in the NFL. I mean, I think you really have to go down a pretty long list on the Chiefs side, especially to look at who's their impact player that they didn't draft. I mean, even all the way back to 2016, where they were able to get Chris Jones, who is probably outside of Mahomes, and maybe Kelsey. I mean, I would say probably outside of Mahomes, their most important player.
I'm gonna cry if Kadarius Toney scores on Sunday as a Giants fan.
Oh yeah, sure. But I mean, their draft, they're in a position this year where they've gotten all the way to the Super Bowl, given significant time to 3 rookie cornerbacks. I think that's really, really commendable. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round, just out of that last draft. And I mean, the Eagles in their last draft, they didn't really need to draft anybody that's had to see significant time this year. But Jordan Davis, reserve role, Cam Jurgens coming in when they want to fake who the center is, which is cool to see. But I mean, beyond that, I think they built that team in a really remarkable way. I think all 5 of the current starters on the offensive line are draft picks too, which is really incredible. I mean, obviously, yeah, Lane Johnson, Mailata, Kelsey are all draft picks that have turned into all pros for them. I mean, even through like the history, I think Jason Peters was not a draft pick for them, but outside of that, I think all their really special offensive linemen have come through that system. Obviously, with Jeff Stoutland, one of the best offensive line coaches of all time. I think they do a great job of evaluating in the pre-draft process, and then obviously developing players in that position. But yeah, I mean, I think it's you can really say the same thing about the Chiefs pretty much. Not across the board, but I mean, Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith in the 2021 draft were 2 players I really, really liked coming out of college. I mean, I think Creed Humphrey was pretty much a slam dunk. For anyone who watched college football, they knew he was going to be a special player. But Trey Smith, for whatever reason, even though he was a great athlete, the physicality that you see from him, that sort of defines him game in the NFL was all there. But he slipped to the 200s in his draft class. So
It drives me. Nothing drives me more nuts than people just assuming that these late round draft picks, you could just pick up anyone and shove them into the position. Like, this is incredible scouting to find someone like Trey Smith late rounds. Like, I know Brent said Creed Humphreys, was pretty much a bona fide. This person's going to be a starter in the NFL, but to see the athleticism of Trey Smith and getting someone like that in the 6th round it's great. It's great drafting, and it's awesome to have someone like the Jordan Mailata story. That's just a really awesome story anyway. But that's just finding a freak athlete. That's you can't really prep for that.
Yeah, I mean, Trey Smith was always a stud. Kid was a top 5 recruit in his high school class. Like, the problem there was medicals. Like, the blood clots scared teams off, and that's shout out to Kansas City for being fearless and taking what should have been a top 50 pick at 226. Like, you fleeced the market. Well done. You play into Creed Humphrey. Guy should have been a top 20 pick, no doubt about it, but center just doesn't have that appeal for whatever reason, even though it's a dang important position. Creed Humphrey's a monster. It's just seeing what Kansas City is able to. They might whiff on some first rounders. They might just make some just bonehead decisions with some, extremely valuable draft capital, like, with Cole Hardman at 56, never a big fan of that. Clyde at 32, like, what are we doing? But they hit big on days 2 and 3, and they find studs no matter what school they're at, and guys that'll impact. You point to 3 rookie cornerbacks: Jalen Watson, 7th round pick; Joshua Williams, 4th round pick; Trent McDuffie, obviously a 1st round pick. But finding a 7th rounder and Jalen Watson like that at pick 243 and getting all of this production out of him this early in his career is just remarkable. I mean, they have hit. L'Jarius Sneed's another one where they hit very well. I don't know. The Juan Thornhill on day 2, like, they just find dudes, and I don't know, they do good stuff. Even guys that don't pan out, like Armani Watts, I thought was a very good 4th round pick in 2018. They do good stuff in Kansas City. It's kind of strange to see that they're Super Bowl contender all the time. Weird how the draft works. Also, this always it's always funny seeing the successful teams in the NFL and where they've drafted who and everything, and thinking about the people that are like, oh, that guy was drafted 194th overall. Yeah, he's irrelevant. Who cares about him? Are you still watching the draft? None of these guys are going to play. Garbage.
Takes a lot of dudes to have a football team.
It does. And oddly enough, evaluators miss a lot. Yeah. And guys fall through the cracks. But, I don't know. Any last words from you?
No. I mean, I think George and I were both riding with the Chiefs. If anyone gives a shit about who he thinks going to win the Super Bowl. But yeah, I mean, I think happy to kick off sort of our NFL draft coverage here on the site with you.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mentioned this yesterday. Obviously, Brent said we're both riding with the Chiefs. I'm going to have a lot more gambling content start to come out in a lot of my writing, but my first pick of here is the over 50.5. So I can't imagine that both these teams with averaging high 20s, 29.5 points a game aren't going to hit the over. So I'm expecting some fireworks. We'll see.
Nice.
No pick from me. Gambling or whatever. Nope. No straight up pick. Don't care.
Fair enough.
College football, NFL draft. Sorry, fellas. Appreciate y'all for listening.
Just protect
if you're still here. Yeah, please, again, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you, Brendan and George, for debuting on the draft side of things. And, they've got big things coming to the transfer portal CFB. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.